welcome to Design Your Dream Home podcast. I am Brittany Johnson, and my husband Bjorn is back with me again. So we are all happy to work together and by ourselves. So anyway, what we are going to talk about today is, so we had some friends come up to us and ask, okay, we want to start a project. We have no idea where to even start. What do we do? Okay, that is a common question that we get all the time.
For sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like, where do you even begin? So,
because with anything, like if it's not your expertise, you don't know where to begin.
How do you even start? Yeah.
Windows, it could be siding, it could be a foundation question, it could be sidewalk, pavement, driveway, garage, roof.
So for their project, they were debating about whether they should put new windows in or not. Well, they know they want to put new windows in, but like, are they going to do it themselves? Are they going to hire someone to do it? That was my first question. Don't you think? Yeah.
Sure.
First question is whether you're going to do it yourself or hire someone to do it.
Almost before that, kind of, and we didn't talk about it but budget, I think, is almost always where you start. If you know you have very little money, then you know that doing it yourself is the least expensive. So, can you do
Not
that?
Not always the best choice, but the least expensive.
Well, depends. Yeah. So, is that an option?
You are.
Can you do it whether with friends, family, yourself? I am not a contractor, but I have installed many windows and doors, and I worked as a sales rep for. But so anyway, if I can do it, you can do it. It's, do you want to try it? And one thing that I recommended to a lot of customers throughout my time selling windows, and then I did to our friends, is if you're not sure if you want to try it yourself, take a look at YouTube videos first, that kind of thing. But then pick for a window or for anything.
We were specifically talking about windows in this conversation, which spurred the thought of this podcast.
Yeah, but if it were flooring, say you have a small bathroom or a small room, like test it somewhere small first with a small sample, and then, or like with a window, or so it applies across things. But anyway.
And I talk about this in the course. Like, construction is not necessarily as hard as you think. There are certain steps that you have to take. Certain tools that you have to use. Some things are very manual labor, but it's really just understanding the process. So if you feel like you can get a handle on something, there are a lot of projects you can do yourself that you could just DIY through YouTube school. We love that. Talking to your local contractors, talking to people in the building supply store, your lumber yard. A lot of people are willing to give you the bare bones of even sometimes I'll be like, I'm going to install a door. What do I need? And they'll just go through the lumber yard and give you everything you need. So then that's questions answered. Like, okay, I know now I needed these nails, this flashing tape, this. They know what you need. They put this together for people all the time.
You need to know your situation. So first of all, know your situation.
Yeah, so we don't recommend doing it DIY unless you do feel comfortable. So I guess,
or are willing to put in the work to know how to do it.
Yes, and maybe make some mistakes along the way because you're going to. We all do. We've all done it, but it's not that big of a deal. Like, things can be fixed. It's kind of like, I feel like the older generations and the way they look at computers, they're afraid to touch it because they're going to break something, or it's going to wipe the drive or something. Like, that's not going to happen. Most likely. Yeah. Sometimes they do crazy things and you're like, how the heck did you even do this? I don't know. But most of the time, they're just afraid of ruining something permanently, so they don't want to try. I feel like that's how people feel with construction and these projects, is you're afraid that something you do is going to mess up your entire house. Okay, well, if you don't install a window right, you'll probably know you can take that back out and reinstall it. So things can be fixed.
Yes.
I'm not advocating you trial and error on your house, but just take that pressure off
But
yourself.
If you have a small bathroom window that's easily accessible from the ground on the outside and the inside, and you can just put that out. If something goes wrong and you have the plastic over it, or there's worst case scenarios where you wait a few days for a contractor to be ready or whatever, that you can make it. Not a big deal.
Yes.
So then you're like, okay, I'm not going to tackle the rest of that project myself because I hated it and I was bad at it. Right. For me, that's a great way to decide if you even want to try that. So and go look up YouTube videos first, like Brittany said.
Yeah. So then on that flip side of, you decide you don't want to do this project for yourself, now where do you go? People are very afraid of being taken advantage of in the construction world, which rightfully so. There's a lot of money involved. There's processes that you don't understand, so you don't know if they're doing it right, and that's a big apprehension for a lot of people.
And you could go years
with remodeling,
not knowing
right
afterwards.
I think that's the biggest fear, is that you're going to mess something up and you're not going to know about it for 10 years, and then it will ruin everything in your house. You know, like, it's always, this mistake is going to ruin my entire house.
Yeah.
It happens. But...
Well, the fear. I mean...
Yeah, the fear is there for sure.
Crazy stories happen. There's crazy stories happen.
There's crazy stories in every field.
Yeah.
And yeah, you know, so if you're going to do it yourself, how do you find the contractor for you or the tradesperson for you?
Oh, by do it yourself, not do the work. If you're going to find the contractor
If you're going to find your okay, so yeah, so now you decide you don't want to do the project yourself. How do you find the people to do it for you?
Yep.
You know, how do you vet that a little bit? Well, it's always good to ask for recommendations. It's always good to ask your neighborhood, your neighbors, anyone who's had work done, like, what did you think of it? That is that is definitely a way to find,
especially workers. If it's similar work that you want.
Yeah, like I'm not going to ask their opinion on, you know, someone who installed their bathroom because I want a roofer. You know, like that's not the same, obviously. But they did a similar project. They liked it. That's a pretty good resource.
But generally speaking, in any area you live, someone you know will have hired a contractor and will have had a good or bad experience. So that gives you some direction somewhere, better than knowing nothing.
Yes.
So just ask.
Yes.
Neighbors, friends, people love to tell about themselves and their projects. So you'll get an earful in a good way.
Yes. Yeah, that is, people like to talk about their projects. We all know that. Like, we all do it. So next place to look to me would be like a lumber yard or a building supply place that deals in a lot of construction.
I can speak to that too, I think. Going in as a sales rep to those places, I can speak. So in the Midwest at Menards, they literally have contractor sheets on the contractor desk. I mean, that's, you go back there and you just say, hey, this is what I'm looking to do. And they're like, well, here are the contractors that we know. And it's not that they're saying they necessarily recommend them. It's just...
Right, because anyone can put their name on that list.
Yeah, but they do get... So in Menards specifically, for that instance, they do pull off anyone who's had a bad review that hasn't been solved, that kind of thing. So they self-police it a little bit. Otherwise, you know, Craigslist, Facebook, whatever, Google search... And but just go into any of those home improvement centers or a lumber yard.
I almost prefer more a lumber yard because they have
agree.
Usually a closer relationship with people on a longer term situation, because these people come here and buy things all the time. Like, people do that at contractors buy supplies from Home Depot, Lowe's, all those places too. But there's so many different people in and out of there. They're not... The relationships aren't quite the same.
A lumberyard doesn't have near as much turnover typically with their employees. They're using seasoned staff that are doing a specific thing over many years of time. Typically,
so that is a recommendation I would take good stock in. You know, that's the way to think of it. Like, I would go to a lumberyard and say, you know, this is my project. These are the things that I value in a contractor. You know, because if all you care about is price, that might be one contractor, but if you care about service, that might be a different contractor too. So what matters to you, you know, just speak to that a little bit when you're in your, I was going to say investigation phase, but I guess that's
exactly what it is. And depending on how much money you want to spend, because some contractors only deal in high end. High end contractors aren't going to do low budget work, and not in a bad way, low budget, but budget contractors, they're used to doing with those things.
Usually
like everybody has their niche,
their
fit. And
so that's another point, I think, to talk about projects. A lot of contractors, depending on the size of their business, do not take small jobs. So if you just need one window installed, you might not even find a contractor to do that. Like, it might be more of a handyman service, which is totally fine too.
Sorry, you probably talked to
No, go ahead.
Why. Well, a contractor has to run a crew and keep them busy, and doing that with small one-off, one-day jobs is not easy. Like, contractors want to do, I'm going to be here for 3 months or 2 months or whatever, and we're always going to come here. It's consistent. I know my guys are going to get paid. My people are going to get paid, all that
So
stuff.
it is not uncommon for a contractor to turn you down because your project is too small.
Yep.
So
if it's not an entire
if you're doing some research, if you're doing a small project, you're probably not looking for these contractors that have a lot of marketing, you know, have a website. So it is hard to find them because they're usually just one person or a couple of people, and they just know everybody just knows who they are.
And I was gonna say you saying ask for recommendation. That's why we say that, because then that's those perfect people who are word of mouth advertising handy people who can generally they do really great stuff but aren't looking to advertise everywhere. Right. Those are great people to know.
Sometimes it might seem kind of sketchy, like, in this day and age, we're used to people having websites and emails and being very professional. But in this world of small projects,
eccentric people,
you get a variety of people. Yeah, and that's okay. They do the job. They don't especially if you're trying to save a little money, you're not going to use some big name construction company.
Yeah,
you're going to use some little guy down the road who's been doing this for years. That is how it works. And those people are totally fine. And that's the point of those
you need
construction companies.
Especially in our rural areas.
Yes, like especially small areas.
Handy women, handy people are just, you need those people who are just great at putting things together.
Yeah, like the construction crew that builds a house is not going to be the crew that remodels a bathroom. Maybe if they have time, but probably not. You're going to have a smaller crew in construction company. And some construction companies have different sizes of crews that can do that sort of thing where they're like, this is our big project crew. We have a few guys that float around. Everybody is different, but that is something to consider. I think that when you're doing your research, you think you're looking for a big construction company. That's not where you're going to find your answer.
Yeah, depending on your project.
Yes.
So just know what you're looking for roughly, what it's going to entail. It's good for you to do a little research. Obviously, you don't know, but you can go on the internet and get a good idea of what you think you need done. And then that way, that helps you pinpoint the contractor you need. Or when you're talking to someone, a salesperson or a lumberyard, whatever that is, the more you know about what you want, the more receptive and helpful they will be. I think we said that a lot too.
Yes, exactly. And if you are working on a small project, you might be hiring multiple small tradespeople instead. So another place to look for recommendations, say you're going to remodel your bathroom, would be if you're going to put tile in, go to the tile showroom. They will have a list of tile installers. Find one you like, and then they probably have a contractor that they like to work with to complete the rest of the project. It's because a lot of times it's there's a minor construction work that needs to be done, or maybe there's just removal of stuff. That's not a crew that's going to come in. It's going to be one guy they know who does
maybe
that.
A retired person.
Yeah,
that did it for a living, but now just does it to fill the time.
That's totally normal and happens all the time.
In a great way.
Yeah, it's fine. You usually pay these people with cash or check, and they're your handy guys. And if you can find a really good handy person, keep them forever, because that's what you need for all these small projects. So when I find those people,
they're gold.
You make that work. That's
it's the same as finding a trustworthy mechanic.
Yes,
that's exactly what I'd compare it with.
And everybody's got to get, I say a guy, but it could be. I hope it's more women. I love it as anybody. That's just, the way it's been. But, so those are the beginning places to find.
It touch on specifically what Brittany said about getting referrals about other contractors. That is great. Even say you're doing a tile person or a bathroom. If someone does bathroom tile work a lot, they probably bump into electricians.
Yeah, they know the plumber. So they know
you can whether you can just say, and even whoever goes first comes second. You might be able to talk to somebody to say, hey, I always am after this person and they are terrible, or they're great. I always hear good reviews. Those are the types of things you can ask anyone. Anyone will give you an opinion of what they think. Take it for what it's worth, but at least you can ask around.
We flipped a house in Sioux City a couple years ago, and I hired the plumber first. And then he gave me a recommendation for an electrician that he likes to work with. And I loved the electrician.
Awesome.
He's my go-to now from now on. But then I didn't like my plumber as much. And so then I was talking to the electrician about the plumber, and he's like, yeah,
I hear that.
I know that. We know this.
But he did good work.
So they know each other. Yeah, he did fine. He got the job done. I probably wouldn't hire him again.
Yeah. But long story short, these people know each other.
They know each other,
because you end up crossing paths. That's why you're in the same area. That's going to happen.
Or even asking anyone in the industry for recommendations.
Exactly.
Okay, so maybe an electrician. Well, they will probably have recommendations. They'll know people who do plumbing or whatever it is that you need. Kind of got off our window topic, I guess, but
it's
still
it
the same idea of these small
in general.
Jobs. Yeah,
yeah, and
small projects
exactly
that you need professional help with.
Almost what I'd call weekend or week projects, you could be doing on nights and weekends type work.
Well, a job that's
hours.
Questionable whether you do it yourself or not. Is kind of what we're talking about.
And I think one you probably haven't mentioned are the city offices.
Oh yes, so I had a client ask me the other day. He was asking about permits and all that sort of thing, and he had all these questions, and it was In every community, town, every city of some sort, there is a city office and there's always a permitting department. And so those are the people that can answer all those questions. Thank you for reminding me of that. Those are the people that answer all those questions. They know about all the permits that you need to get. They know about the inspector that's coming, and yes, all that kind of stuff. And they work with contractors all the time. So they absolutely know like who regularly has issues coming up and who doesn't, who like has a good process and who doesn't. You know, they know these people from a very professional standpoint. And so they are an excellent resource to find local tradespeople. And because they deal with all the trades too, because you need an electrical permit, you need a plumbing permit, you need roofing permits, you know, like they know all the people. So that's also a really great resource. And quite often, especially in medium to smaller communities, they're very helpful. You know, like
for sure.
They're really not that crazy busy. I mean, sometimes it is, but there's a pretty good chance you could have a really good, helpful conversation with someone in that office.
And they're happy to know that someone cares. The caveat I would say is, obviously, we recommend doing things professionally, getting permits the right way, all of that stuff. But in the situations where you're moonlighting, if you call into that office and they ask where you're, you know, if you give away a lot of information, they may pass by if you're building a deck or
you know, if you're
whatever.
trying to get by without getting a permit or doing something that maybe is not quite to code, which, you know what, we all know this happens.
Yep.
It's part of life.
Oh, yeah.
That's what the city permitting, inspection, and everything office is for, to stop people from doing things like that.
But they're supposed to know all the rules, and so they can tell you all these things. They're a great resource. That's why Brittany recommends them all the time to people.
Yeah, like if you're wondering, is this possible? Can I extend this garage over here?
They will totally tell
they know
that.
where your property lines are and what the limit is for how close you can be to those. You know, they're going to know all those answers, but they're going to give you the legal answer. So, so if you're trying to kind of bend the rules a little bit, then maybe you don't want to draw attention to yourself at the permit office. Is all that I'm getting at there. I would never advocate that, but I just know in this world it happens. That's pretty much it. Those are great places to start.
And those don't cost money.
Right.
Like you're not paying any money for these recommendations. You don't have to. These are all just ways for free that people. These are all expectations that people intend to fill for others. You know, like recommend like this is normal thing. You are not overstretching your bounds, or you know, you're not
out of place to go to ask questions at these places.
They help. This is all they do all the time. Tile showroom, window plate, like wherever aisle you're in and whatever. Hopefully, whoever's in that vicinity knows what they're talking about.
Yes, roughly. And the more professional of a place you go to, to me, usually the more I can trust the answer. And
typically, the more you're going to pay, but you're going to get what you pay for.
Yes, you might
because knowledge saves a lot of time and a lot of mistakes.
Exactly. Like someone who's well-seasoned, knows what they're doing, is going to circumvent some issues that you might have walked right into without knowing.
Which as DIYers, we completely understand.
Yes.
Professionals do things much more quickly and smoother than we do.
Like I went to, we wanted flooring in our bus, and we went to the flooring place. I talked to the guy, asked all my questions at this. This is the owner. Like he is very knowledgeable, and I told him what we were doing, and he was just like, "Are you sure you want to do that? You know, like, I think you might have some issues with this or that." And I was like, "No, we're doing it. I think I know this, you know." Okay. And the exact thing he said was going to happen happened, and we are now living with that, and that's fine. But these people know a few things about what they're doing and can help
typically
you.
You're not going to outflank or outsmart the expert in the industry, you know.
So if they're telling you that maybe you should do it like this, that might be the right thing. Unless you legit know what you're doing and you know that you're right.
And literally have done it before in the exact same situation. But so anyway.
So that's kind of the long and short version of how to find a contractor or handy person. Start it yourself. And also, if you're doing a DIY, we talked about that a little bit, but going to those places and asking those tradespeople, kind of like I was just saying about like the flooring, I just talked to my salesperson all about me installing it, knowing that like the limits of a DIY person, they could take that into account. They're going to recommend products that are maybe easier to install than others, or shortcuts for people, or
any quality salesperson is just looking to like where you look to fill a need, and yet you're there to sell, but you're not there to sell the wrong thing to the wrong person, because then you're just going to get a ticked off person. Like, that doesn't make any sense. So any quality salesperson, if you're asking them for something they don't have, they're going to say, well, it sounds like you're looking more for this. I'd recommend you go here. Like, that's how that typically goes. So typically people are pretty honest if you just know what you're asking about. Mm-hmm.
And if you are not a trustworthy person and you really want multiple suggestions, and multiple opinions, then ask at all those different places. Yeah, that's okay.
Yes. You can go to 7. You'll get 7 different answers.
Well, you might, or a few might overlap, and then you'll be like, okay, well then that's obviously the right thing to do. So they're like, to me, I love to research. I'm all about it. So I go enjoy deep. Getting different and I'm going to do my research. And because a bad crew can ruin a good project, like no doubt, or make it harder or more expensive. Like, hire the people that feel capable of what you're doing, that you trust to know what they're doing, who've done this before. I don't want to hire someone because they think maybe they can do this. That's when you do it yourself. I think maybe I can do this, but just hire the crews that can do what they say they can do, that you trust, that you've heard good things about.
Work they've done that you can see, possibly.
Yes.
Like, drive down the street that you can see their patio from the outside. Like, I did that. That's
yes. Oh yeah. Even when I'm working with contractors and they'll have like a different idea maybe or something that I'm talking about, and they'll be like, well, you can go to so and so and check out their patio. I've literally done that, where they're like, we stamped it this way. Go out there, see what you think. That happens all the time, and that's a great resource.
Can't get better than that.
Yes. So do your research. And that's how you do it. But projects are possible. You can do this. And the best of luck for you. If you have more questions, check up on more podcasts. We are at www.b-design.us. Check out our course, Design Your Dream Home, which delves into all of these things infinitely more. We just got done doing an interview with experts, which we are adding into the course, where it talks to these people and the things that they recommend and do's and don'ts and all
tips
that,
and
which
that save you all kinds of times and
super fun for us and informational on all kinds of ends. And so we're here for you to support everybody, and we just hope that you are finding creating your own authentic space, however that works for you.